So specifically, we're going to be talking about Civilization 5: Gods and Kings, the expansion pack that is slated for release on
June 19th?
June 19th.
Or June 22 overseas.
Yeah, so June 19th in North America. So I have with me here Dennis Shirk, the lead producer of Civilization 5: Gods and Kings. So I have the chat room here, so you guys should start asking your questions. I'm going to pick some questions and ask Dennis. But let's start off by just kind of give an overview of what is being added in Gods of Kings.
Sure.
You know, what's the high level?
Well, you know what? This is the Civilization expansion, and we kind of set our sights on Beyond the Sword as the target for what we wanted to shoot for. So we've got like 9 new civilizations. We're including Isabella with Spain, over 27 new units, 9 new wonders. There's a slew of new buildings, natural wonders, resources, just a lot of new gameplay systems, religion, espionage.
New everything.
New everything. A lot of passes on the AI. It's a big package.
Alrighty. So I know one of the big things, we're still waiting to get some questions. I know one of the big things that we're adding is religion.
Yes.
And it was a big thing when Civ 5 came out. People said, you know, we want religion, we want religion. So can you talk a bit about, you know, the approach that you took to religion and how,
Sure.
you know, it differs from the Civilization 4 approach to religion, and maybe why you kind of deviated from that? You know,
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, in Civilization 4, religion had a very big diplomatic impact. And when John went into designing the core diplomacy systems in Civilization 5, what he wanted to avoid doing was putting yet another new layer on top of a brand new system that people already had to learn all over again. And it didn't feel like something that he really thought mixed well with all the rest of the new pieces of the game. Now, when Ed approached religion, Ed Beach, he's the new designer for this one. He's designed all the scenarios since then. He's a published board game designer. He's a big fan of the Renaissance. A lot of his published board games have to do with the Renaissance. So he's doing a big scenario called Into the Renaissance. It has a lot to do with like religious combat throughout the Renaissance era in the Middle Ages. And what he wanted to do was approach religion in a completely new way, one that really fit. Yes, we have some diplomatic modifiers in there for that because we feel that's time. People have experienced the game for quite a while now. But a lot of the basis of religion has to do with beliefs and modifiers. This is a whole new way to tailor how you're going to play the game. So when you choose a pantheon belief, you're choosing a modifier with how you're going to play. When you're choosing a full belief, you might choose something that's going to help you out with your war game or with your science game or your culture game. It really is about tailoring a religion for you, not so much of picking a religion overall.
Okay. Yeah, some people are asking, you know, can I be this religion or can I be that religion? And I believe the answer is you can kind of be whatever religion you want, right?
We've got a big mix of real world and historic religions in the game, from Christianity, Judaism, Tengriism. We've got some really obscure ones back there too. You can use those icons and names just as flavor if you want, or you can rename it to be whatever you want. In the demo, we're actually using Sidism because it's really just for flavor. The religion, what it's going to be ultimately is whatever you say it's going to be.
So it's you truly do build it then. It is the religion that you build as you want it to be.
Yes. Yep.
That is cool. So someone is asking, are you going to be changing any of the unique attributes of the original leaders to incorporate faith and some of these new elements in Gods and Kings?
Not all of them. We did fix a few that didn't make as much sense. For instance, now we have defensive embarkation for everybody, and we can stack units at sea, because once a military unit enters the water, they become a civilian as long as they're embarked, so you can defend them with, you know, offensive naval units. But as a result, like Askia's trait didn't matter so much anymore. So we've changed his trait, we've trained a few other traits to kind of integrate with some of these new systems.
All right. Someone wants to know if Isabella is exclusive to the middle-aged scenario.
No, she's playable in the full game as well. I mean, we figure if we're in for a penny, we're in for a pound. Why not give it to everybody else as well?
And so you mentioned changes to naval combat. Can you go a little deeper into what those changes are?
Well, obviously, you've probably read about the Great Admiral. He's like the Great General at sea. He gives bonuses to everybody, and he's also got this fleet repair special ability that everybody around him can get healed to full strength no matter where they are. You don't have to be in friendly territory anymore. That'll expend them just like you would with the Great General turning into a citadel, things like that. Likewise, what I had just mentioned with embarking units, they now become civilian units, so you can stack military units with them for better defense, so they're not just sitting out there. And the defensive embarkation allows them to take a little bit of damage, not a lot, but we wanted to avoid the ship comes flying out of the fog, wipes out your embarked units, and then goes flying back into the fog scenario. So now they can actually survive. They might be able to run away, get some defenses up close to them. And we've also split the units into different classes now. Before you had ranged units, that was it. So you could sit on the coast with your city. You might maintain control of your continent and never worry about enemy warships floating by unless you saw an amphibious force. So now, kind of like with the Vikings, if you beat down a city by sea with your battleships ranged firing in until they have no defenses left, your destroyers now can go into port, drive right up, their Marines come off, and they can take a city. You can pillage it for gold, keep it, it's yours now. So it adds a whole other element to worrying about how you place your cities, how much you have to defend them.
Gotcha.
And of course, the AI was completely rewritten to accommodate all of this.
Someone's asking if the earlier DLCs that we've released over the last couple years will be included, and I know the answer to that is no. The 9 civs, right?
Yes.
The 9 civs that are in Gods and Kings are all brand new,
yes.
Not repeats of any of the DLC.
Right.
It is completely all brand new.
All brand new, except for Isabella, which we're throwing in there for the scenario stuff. She's an addition,
gotcha.
So there's 10, technically 10 if you don't own her yet as part of a previous DLC, that kind of thing.
I was mistaken. Okay, yeah. So it's 10 if you don't already have Isabella.
Yes.
Let's see. Someone was asking if you can have multiple religions, either if you can found multiple religions or if multiple religions can have influence in your cities.
You can't found multiple religions, because once you found your religion, you expend a great profit to do that. If you have extra great profits, you can continue to enhance your religion, make it more powerful, additional beliefs. And on top of that, you can have other religions intruding in your territory, because there's 2 belief systems or belief levels to religion. You've got the founder belief, obviously past the Pantheon. The Pantheon's your primitive one. But you've got a founder belief, which are your rewards as the founder. You spread that far and wide, and you get rewards for every other city that adopts your religion. The follower belief is on a city level. So you choose that one. For instance, one of them is called cathedrals. It's something where you can build a culture building and purchase it with faith in each city that's following your religion. If somebody else's beliefs start intruding in your territory, you get their benefit. They might have chosen, for example, like peace loving, which gives gold per city based on, I'm having a brain fart. Gives you gold per city based on wherever the civ is, wherever the religion is spreading. So if you have that religion spreading into your territory, you're now getting gold from that as well. So you can certainly have a mixture in your cities. If you like theirs better, you might decide to build missionaries in theirs and spread theirs across your land. It's really up to you how you want to play it.
So that your opponent's religions can benefit you for being in your city.
Yes.
It's not just for the person who founded the religion.
Correct.
Gotcha. Someone is asking if they've never played any Civ before. Could they jump into Civ 5 Gods and Kings? Is it a good place to start, or what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely. In terms of choice, it's a great place to start. We did not write any one system in the expansion to be an overwhelming critical system to the game. If you don't want to play with religion, you don't have to. Religion will eventually come to you, but it kind of happens around you. So if you're a new player, it's nothing like you're like, oh my god, what do I do? I'm going to lose now because religion came into my territory. It's all very assisted kind of systems that we've added to the game.
Okay.
They'll certainly have more choice.
I had a question, and then I lost it. Some people are asking about AI.
Yes.
You had mentioned some changes to the AI. Elaborate on what that is.
We've done a large amount of passes on the AI, from the Diplo AI to a lot of just polish everywhere else. We've obviously rewritten the Naval AI, and once you see the AI initiate a naval invasion, you'll understand it completely because it's impressive and devastating, and it's fast. An example for this, for a naval AI invasion, before it used to initiate it, it used to pick a target, and then it would take sometimes outwards of 50 to 60 turns to prep for it and then start its invasion. And now it's going to do it, it's going to prep for it, it's going to re-evaluate if it wants to do the same invasion, and that can be within like 10 turns, and it's very fast at doing it. We've made passes on the diplomatic AI, so now diplomatic options actually fade properly over time. So we've recoded that entire area so that if something's not that important, like you're settling too near to us, that'll fade, it's not going to stick with you. We've gotten rid of the you're trying to win the same way of us, because that just takes you out of the game. We didn't feel like it was a really good diplomatic modifier. So we've done a lot of work there in terms of having relationships change over the course of the game instead of it going one way and then staying that way for the rest of the game. and land combat as well. That AI work's going to be ongoing. Ed's been focusing a lot of his time recently, especially now that we're approaching the end of development, making sure that all the AI has received a really, really good pass.
Well, that all sounds excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, Civ 5 is my favorite game.
That's good to
the
hear.
Civ franchise has always been my favorite franchise. It's so fun getting to work with you guys and represent Civ. And so I'm along with you guys on this.
Nice.
Someone's asking, is there co-op? And yeah, you can play Civ 5 co-op. You can put yourselves on the same team and you can play against. That's always been a fun way for me to play Civ, especially if I'm trying to teach my wife to play. We can hop on the same team and play together. Can you conquer city-states without penalty?
You can conquer city-states without penalty, and I've got to remember this right, because there's been a lot of different city-state work going on. One of the ways is with Austria, and that's one of the new civs that we're talking about here that probably people didn't know about. So,
well, there you go. So you got to learn something new.
You would have known it on Sunday morning anyways, but Maria Theresa has a trait that allows her to basically diplomatically marry into a city-state and kind of absorb it into her territory, which is really cool. So there is that. There's also a way of defeating enemy city-states if you find yourself already at war with them, and that's as a result of a lot of the AI work that took place in regards to with warmongering. Everybody was not a big fan of the way that warmongering was completely done in Civilization 5. So you'd often get a lot of warmongering penalties for stuff that maybe wasn't your fault. And we've also done a whole pass on that system as well. So if you get attacked and you go ahead and take out that city-state as a result, you're not necessarily a warmonger. Additionally, we've changed up the way that city-states calculate warmongering. We no longer have it. One of the things we had was where all city-states would go to permanent war with you eventually. And honestly, that wasn't as interesting a choice then, because people just stopped invading city-states because it turned into kind of a pain to have to go to war with everybody. So now we have war wariness instead with them. At a certain point, they will band together, but it basically resets the influence level down to a default of a big negative. So you have to work twice as hard to try to get them into a positive or even to an ally in that situation.
Gotcha. Someone's wondering if there are any changes to graphics and sounds with the expansion. Has any work... I don't know the answer to this.
Sure. Obviously, there's a lot of new stuff, but what we didn't want to do is up everything so that people with existing rigs would have issues playing the expansion. So in that regard, just about the level is the same. Of course, there's a whole new set of original composed music for all the new civs, stuff like that. But we wanted to make sure you're playing it on the same hardware you did before.
All right. An interesting question. Someone brought up the I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation. The UN voting that was in a big thing in Civ 4. Yeah. Has any thought gone into that kind of thing or bringing back a similar mechanic like that? I don't believe we have anything like that in Gods and Kings, but has that been something that's come up in discussions?
No, it's come up in discussions, and it was always a cool mechanic in Civ 4 to see the different votes going by. But because of all the work that we did on city-states, essentially not completely reworking, but really putting a lot of attention onto our existing diplomatic victory, we didn't want to add even more layers on top of that with all the other systems we're already putting in place.
And speaking of city-states, I know that there are 2 new kinds of city-states. Go into a little more detail about what those are and how they fit in. I know a lot of people have been wondering how the religious city-states will work with faith and all that.
The religion city-state is a little bit more straightforward. As you would expect, religious city-states actually give you layers of faith with friend and ally, kind of like culture city-states do. Other than that, he acts like a normal city-state, giving you all his luxuries if you're his ally, things like that. So if you're really playing a hardcore religious game where you really want to take advantage of everything that faith can do, religious states are your city-states are your best bet. And the mercantile one is a favorite of mine. Mercantile actually gives you additional happiness once you become their ally, and they have a unique luxury, either porcelain or jewelry, that only they provide and only to their allies. So if you're allied with them, you're actually getting the added bonus of a luxury that nobody else has in the game, i.e. more happiness. So they're definitely a happiness-driven city-state.
Awesome. So that means the thing that I had teased about them giving you more gold was actually wrong, so before anyone calls me out on that, that was an assumption that I made based on the name, and I was incorrect.
That's all right.
I apologize. So they give you happiness, which indirectly translates into gold.
Luxury goods, man. That's what they're bringing it in. They're bringing in jewelry, porcelain, and your people are happy as a result.
So you personally, what is your favorite thing about Gods and Kings? You know, if you try to play Civ 5 vanilla and then play Gods, or you know, if you play Civ 5 vanilla after playing Gods and Kings, what do you find yourself missing the most?
Missing?
I mean,
or the new edition?
What do you find yourself going, man, you know, I really want to go back, I want to play Gods and Kings because I really like this new thing.
Oh man, that's really tough because the best thing about Gods and Kings is you have, I would say aside from all the AI work, combat, and the new civs and everything else, you've got these two primary systems that receive the most amount of attention. That's religion and espionage. And they don't take place necessarily at the same time. Religion goes up a ramp to the mid-game and then starts to fade in the late game, and just as that's fading, espionage is introduced in the Renaissance and starts going up the ramp. And that's when your idealism takes over from religion modifiers. So you actually get the whole experience with both those systems throughout the game, so it's hard to pick one or the other, because if you say, what's your favorite in the early game? Of course I'm going to go playing Boudica with religion, because she gets faith right away from Forest, things like that, so you can really be a religion powerhouse. But then when you get into the end game, espionage has the intrigue system. The intrigue system is plugged directly into the AI, and so you're like getting a glimpse under the hood. If your spies are really good, they're like telling you when like invasions are happening, or you might get an AI player that comes to you and says, I just want to let you know, Pakal's going to be invading you in 5 turns, and it's happening right there. And he tells you this, and you can prepare. That kind of stuff just adds a whole new element to the game.
I've been playing it myself, and that was one of my favorite things I saw, was when the AI said, hey, this guy's preparing an attack against you. And I went, oh, thanks, guy. That was really nice to know.
The first time it happens, it's a trip, especially when you find out it's about somebody else, and you take that information to that other person and tell them, and then they're like suddenly your friends going, wow, that was awesome. You shared that with us. That was great.
So yeah, sounds like there's a lot of more options in diplomacy, ways to make people like you and ally with you.
Yeah, and the final three...
You just mentioned one of them, which is to let someone know that an attack is against them.
The final 3 policy trees also. I mean, religion has a lot to do with diplomatic modifiers, of course. When you get to the late game, whether you choose order, autocracy, or freedom has a big deal on your different diplomatic modifiers as well. So if you have a couple freedom lovers and you band together and you say, you know what, we're going to be best friends, versus these guys that both had order over here. In the demo, I chose autocracy. All my previous friends that went the order path decided not to like me so much anymore because they didn't necessarily like how where my idealism was going.
Here's a very specific question, which is, are there any world wonders that affect city-state influence? I know there's some policies that do.
Yeah, that's by extension there is. And this is a little bit more of a stretch, but the National Intelligence Agency gives you an extra spy, and spies are a finite resource, and having that stuff available, like a lot of my games when I'm playing culture games, most of my spies are living in city-states, keeping my influence high. So it's not a direct impact, but it certainly helps me out when I'm playing.
I'll say that counts.
Yeah.
And there, they got a little more information about how one of the World Wonders works. So a lot of people want to know what new units there are. And obviously we're not just going to rattle off and list all the new units, but maybe you can pick one or two that are interesting, you know, just new units to the tech tree.
Sure. The Drahman, the Byzantine Drahman, it's actually a new unique unit, but I got to give a shout out because it spits fire, which is just awesome no matter what game you're playing. But in terms of the tech tree, the fact that we rounded out the entire archery line is really cool. There's nothing cooler than a Gatling gun and a machine gun. It's a single hex ranged unit, which means it's awesome for defense.
That's brand new, right? There were no one hex ranged units.
So really awesome for defense. They can do quick attacks and not have to worry about getting damaged while they do them. So really cool that way. And of course, everybody's seen the coverage of the Great War series of units and the triplane, the Great War bomber, all that stuff. So we've got units speckled throughout the tech tree. It's going to be a lot of fun for people to discover.
All right. A lot of people, do you know what the list of civs that we've already announced are, that are in?
That we've already announced? Yes, I'm pretty sure I do. There was, well, we already announced the Huns, we were talking about them. I already mentioned Austria earlier in the interview. And then of course there is Boudica, and I got to actually go through the list in my head. Pakal,
yeah, I'm putting you through the test right here.
Yeah, Theodore of the Byzantines. And I'll save a couple for tomorrow when you actually broadcast our demo, because there's a couple more in there that haven't been introduced before.
That's right. So for the people asking, we are going to be showing a direct feed of the demo that is being shown here on the show floor. You don't even have to wait in line. You get to see it from home. We are broadcasting that either tomorrow or Sunday. I will find out the actual for sure answer and let you guys know. It's probably in that schedule at the bottom of the page below the stream here.
And Wave of Orange too. I'll just throw that one in there.
People are asking about the Huns.
Yes.
They want to know, what was it specifically? Well, they want to know any info on the Huns.
Yes.
We get a lot of any info on everything.
Yeah.
Specifically, like, will they be able to found cities? Kind of general questions.
It was funny, as soon as we released that one screenshot that had Attila's court taken by somebody else, we knew that, the fan community would just go crazy trying to figure out what was going on there. Excuse me. Basically, the Huns still relatively work like any other civilization. So Attila's court is their capital. There's no actual capital. We wanted it to be kind of Attila's center. But they don't necessarily have city names. They're Huns, so they steal their city names from everybody else's lists. So as they expand outward, they might go from the bottom of other people's lists and start, taking other people's cities' names. In terms of their trait is Scourge of God. And what that basically means is they're really hard workers. So they raise cities at twice the rate of anybody else. So they're really good at destroying cities. They start with horses. They get plus production from any of their pastures that they have. So your typical horse kind of base culture conquers. Now they're unique units. Horse Archer is a unique unit. They also start with an early game battering ram, which actually replaces the spearman. So you're going to be using them very differently than spearman. The battering ram is absolutely devastating against early cities. So if you start off next to Attila, it's really dangerous. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Jumping back to religion for a moment, someone was wondering if there are any intrinsic values attached to the specific religions, or if they are just icons that then the customization is the same for each of them.
The religions are just icons and names. We really wanted this to be customized by you for your civilization from the ground up. The only thing that you're required to use under the current system until somebody mods it differently is the symbols. I mean, you can rename it to whatever you want and then assign beliefs and attach beliefs from there on.
All right. And let's see, we haven't talked at all about scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what scenarios we're actually talking about today. I know people have been asking about the Victorian scenario. We're not going to be talking about that today. It's really cool. That info will be coming out on that, believe me, but that's not something we're going to talk about today. I don't know if you guys are talking about any of the other scenarios.
Not in the demos, but we certainly can. I mean, the other two that we've got the Smoky Sky scenario that you just mentioned. We've got two other ones. One of them is a very large scenario called Into the Renaissance. That's the lead designer's scenario that he put together. That's the kind of the inspiration for the whole game, actually, is this whole medieval into the Renaissance religious warfare. And you're fighting basically to be the dominant religion force in the game, have the holy city, the whole 9 yards. And that's a really, really amazing That's a really amazing scenario to play. Fall of Rome is really cool, and this is like managed decay. You can just choose to play the barbarians if you want. You can choose to play any of the invaders of Rome. And if you choose to play either Eastern or Western Rome, the funny thing about theirs is the extra challenge that they have is they've got forced culture that you have. So you're forcing a certain amount of culture to come into play, which means you have to make policy choices. Except for the Roman empires, your policy choices are all negative. So each one you pick actually makes you a little less effective and a little worse as the barbarians are knocking at your door. So it's more of a game of survival, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, and we're just about out of time here, so let's see if we can get one more question coming out of here. Someone really wants to know if horse units will be buffed.
What's that?
If horse units are going to be increased in power. I mean, I know a lot of changes are coming to the to the combat, so I'm not sure it kind of makes sense to talk about how one unit changed because there's so many changes. Like, I do believe
the whole thing received a combat rebalancing, honestly, from front to back.
So horse units are different in power now because everything is different in power, and even if they didn't change, if everything changed around them, then they relatively changed.
Yes.
One thing we didn't talk about that I know from when I was playing it is that hit points were all changed to 100. All units have 100 hit points instead of 10 hit points.
Yes.
Can you go into maybe the design philosophy behind why that was the case?
Well, the original intention of the game was to kind of have this ebb and flow to your lines. And what we found over the last just year and a half of like watching people play, seeing how people play the strategies, is that combat happened just a little too quickly for the original design intent. So you could say have 2 same strength units battling 1 same strength unit, and they're going to kill it. So you never had a chance for your lines to form. You never could really mount a stout defense. So we've rebalanced the combat values, we've rebalanced costs, and we've actually made it, we've gone from 10 to 100 points, but we've made it so now it takes on average around 3.5 of the same strength unit hits to kill 1 of same strength. So you actually have a chance to maybe survive a battle. If that catapult is left out in the open, you can pull them back, replace a unit, and it makes for a much cooler, more dynamic fight, which is really, really exciting. So that's where
All
we're
right,
at.
that sounds good.